The stars had never seemed so cold to Admiral Park Do-hoon. He stood on the observation deck of the UN Defiance, his hands clasped behind his back, watching the massive display screen that covered the entire forward wall. The broadcast was coming from Valara Prime, the heart of the Galactic Compact, and every human in the known universe was watching. The Valari High Speaker stood at his podium, his golden wings folded elegantly behind him. His feathers caught the light as he moved, creating a rainbow of colors that other species found beautiful. Do-hoon found it disgusting. Not the speaker himself, but what he represented. 300 years of insults. 300 years of humanity being treated like animals. The human petition for equal trade rights is denied, the speaker announced. His voice was musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Mammals from a backwater spiral arm should be grateful we permit them to exist in our shipping lanes. They contribute nothing to galactic civilization. They build nothing of value. They are children playing at being adults. The other representatives in the chamber made sounds of agreement. The Kreeth clicked their sharp mandibles together in what passed for laughter among their kind. The crystalline Moravi pulsed with soft light, their way of showing amusement. None of them disagreed. None of them spoke up for humanity. Do-hoon felt his jaw tighten. Behind him, he heard a soft curse from his communications officer, Kim Yuna. She was young, barely 30 years old. But she had seen enough of alien cruelty to understand what this moment meant. "Admiral," she said quietly, "we are receiving transmissions from all 14 colony worlds." Everyone watched the broadcast. "And what are they saying?" Do-hoon asked, though he already knew the answer. "They are angry, sir. Very angry." Do-hoon nodded slowly. He had been a soldier for 40 years. He had served humanity faithfully, following orders, maintaining peace, doing everything the Galactic Compact demanded. He had watched human ships bow to alien vessels. He had watched human merchants pay unfair taxes. He had watched human colonies struggle while alien worlds grew fat on stolen resources. And he had watched the colony on Proxima burn. The memory hit him like a physical blow. 15 years ago, the Valari had accused the Proxima colony of illegal mining operations. They had not asked for evidence. They had not allowed humans to defend themselves. They had simply sent their fleet and burned the colony from orbit. 60,000 humans had died in a single day. Men, women, and children all turned to ash because the Valari wanted to send a message. The message was clear. Humans were nothing. Humans could be killed without consequence. Humans existed only because the Compact allowed them to exist. Do-hoon closed his eyes and remembered the faces of the dead. He had known some of them personally. Good people. Innocent people. They had done nothing wrong except being born human in a galaxy that hated them. "Sir," Yuna said, "we are receiving an emergency summons from Earth. The United Council is meeting in 1 hour. Your presence is requested." 1 hour later, Do-hoon stood in the Great Hall of the United Earth Council. The room was filled with representatives from every human world. President Lee Tae-ho stood at the central podium, his face grave. He was an old man now, his hair white, and his shoulders bent with the weight of leading humanity through difficult times. But his eyes were sharp, and his voice was strong. "You all watched the broadcast?" Tae-ho said. "You all heard what the High Speaker said about us. This is not new. For 300 years, we have endured their contempt. We have followed their rules. We have paid their taxes. We have accepted their restrictions on our technology, our trade, our very right to exist." He paused, letting his words sink in. The hall was silent. No one moved. No one breathed. "And in return," Tae-ho continued, "they burned Proxima. They blockade our trade routes. They call us vermin in their own halls. They treat us worse than animals." His voice grew stronger, filled with emotion that he had kept hidden for years. "I have begged them for peace. I have negotiated with them in good faith. I have compromised everything except our basic dignity. And still they spit on us. Still they laugh at us. Still they kill us without consequence." Tae-ho slammed his fist on the podium. The sound echoed through the hall like thunder. No more. The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Every representative understood what the president was suggesting. It was unthinkable. It was impossible. It was suicide, and yet, no one objected. "We will build a fleet," Tejo declared. "Not the small defensive force they allow us to have. A real fleet. A fleet that will make them remember that humanity is not to be dismissed. We will develop weapons they have forbidden us to research. We will train soldiers they do not know exist. And when we are ready, we will demand what they have refused to give us peacefully." He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of every representative. "I will not lie to you. This path is dangerous. Many of us may die. Our worlds may burn like Proxima burned. But I ask you, what is the alternative? Do we continue to bow? Do we continue to accept their cruelty? Do we teach our children that they are worthless? That they deserve to be treated like insects?" Admiral Dohun stepped forward. His voice was calm and steady, the voice of a man who had made his peace with death long ago. "I have served humanity for 40 years, he said. "I have obeyed every order, followed every rule, done everything asked of me. And I have watched my people suffer. I have watched them die. I will not watch anymore. If we must fight, then I will lead the fight. And I will not stop until humanity is free, or I am dead." The vote was called. One by one, the representatives cast their ballots. Some hesitated. Some wiped tears from their eyes. But when the count was finished, the result was clear. Unanimous. Humanity would build its fleet. Humanity would demand respect. And if the galaxy refused to give it peacefully, humanity would take it by force. That night, Dohun returned to the Defiance. He stood alone on the observation deck, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, the Valari and their allies were celebrating another victory over the primitive humans. They had no idea what was coming. "We are coming for you," Dohun whispered to the darkness. "And when we arrive, you will learn why humanity has survived everything the universe has thrown at us. You will learn that we are not children. We are not animals. We are humans, and we do not forgive." The stars continued to shine, cold and indifferent. But for the first time in 300 years, they did not seem quite so far away. The moon looked dead from the outside. It was a small, gray rock floating in the asteroid belt of the Tau Ceti system, unremarkable in every way. The Galactic Compact had scanned this region 1,000 times and found nothing worth investigating. That was exactly what humanity wanted them to think. Chief Engineer Huang Minho floated through the central corridor of the Prometheus shipyards, watching the construction crews work on the latest battle cruiser. The inside of the moon was hollow, carved out over decades of secret labor. It stretched for kilometers in every direction, filled with docking bays, assembly lines, and research laboratories. Thousands of workers lived here permanently, cut off from the outside world, dedicated to a single purpose: building the fleet that would change everything. Minho was an old man now, nearly 70 years old. He had started this project when he was just a young engineer with a dangerous dream. Back then, everyone said it was impossible. The Compact monitored human technology closely. They forbade any research into advanced weapons. They inspected human ships regularly to make sure they remained weak and harmless. But Minho had found ways around their restrictions. Small factories hidden in asteroids, research stations disguised as mining operations, supply chains that moved through 100 different hands before reaching their destination. Piece by piece, year by year, he had built something magnificent. "How is she looking?" he asked, stopping beside a viewport that overlooked the main construction bay. The ship floating before him was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. The Wrath of Terra, humanity's first true battle cruiser, was nearly complete. Its hull was covered in adaptive armor, a technology that had taken 15 years to develop. When struck by an energy weapon, the armor would analyze the attack and reconfigure itself to resist that specific type of damage. Hit it once, and it would learn. Hit it twice, and you would do nothing. "She will be ready for trials next month," said Captain Song Hana, stepping up beside him. She was the woman chosen to command this magnificent vessel, and she had earned that honor through years of distinguished service. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with quiet determination. Hana had lost her brother on Proxima. She never spoke about it, but everyone knew. That loss had shaped her into the warrior she was today. She trained harder than anyone. She demanded perfection from her crew. She was ready to make the Compact pay for every human life they had stolen. The simulations are promising, she continued. We ran 17 different combat scenarios against Valari fleet formations. We won every single one. Minho nodded, but his expression remained cautious. Simulations are not real battles. We have never tested these weapons against actual targets. We do not know how the Compact will respond when they realize what we have built. Then we will learn together, Hana said simply. That is what humans do. We adapt. We survive. We win. She led him down to the weapons bay, where her crew was running final checks on the kinetic lance batteries. These weapons were humanity's greatest achievement. They used electromagnetic rails to accelerate tungsten rods to incredible speeds, nearly 70% of the speed of light. At that velocity, a rod the size of a human arm could punch through any shield, any armor, any ship. Lieutenant Choi Jiho, the weapons officer, looked up from his console as they approached. He was a quiet young man, with steady hands and excellent aim. Hana trusted him completely. Ready for inspection, Captain, he reported. All 12 batteries are fully operational. Targeting systems are calibrated. We can hit a ship from 100,000 kilometers away. What about the jump disruptors? Hana asked. Installed and tested. Once we activate them, nothing can escape. Their faster-than-light drives will fail. They will be trapped with us. Hana allowed herself a small smile. For centuries, the Compact had relied on their ability to retreat whenever a battle turned against them. Their ships could jump away in an instant, escaping to safety before suffering serious losses. That advantage was about to disappear. Meanwhile, in a different section of the shipyard, Intelligence Officer Baek Nari was reviewing reports from her network of spies scattered across Compact space. She was a small woman with sharp features and even sharper eyes. Nothing escaped her notice. She had spent 30 years building her network, recruiting agents from every species who resented Compact rule. And what she had discovered was extraordinary. The Compact has not fought a real war in 4,000 years, she explained to Admiral Dohun during their secure briefing. Their fleets are ceremonial. Their commanders are chosen for their family connections, not their skill. They have never faced an enemy who fought back. Dohun studied the data on his screen. Nari's agents had provided detailed information about Compact fleet movements, supply lines, and defensive positions. They knew where every ship was stationed. They knew which commanders were competent and which were fools. They knew everything. What about their weapons? He asked. Powerful but predictable, Nari replied. They used the same plasma lance technology they developed 3,000 years ago. It has never been updated because it has never needed to be. No one has ever survived a direct hit. Until now. Until now, Nari agreed. Our adaptive armor changes everything. They will fire at us, expecting instant victory. And we will still be there when the smoke clears. The psychological impact alone will be devastating. She pulled up another file, showing images from alien worlds. Massive crowds, alien species of all kinds, going about their daily lives in perfect peace. There is something else, she said. The Compact's civilian populations have no idea how fragile their empire really is. They have been told for centuries that their military is invincible. When that belief is shattered, there will be chaos. Fear, doubt, we can use that. Dohun nodded slowly. He understood what Nari was suggesting. This war would not be won only with ships and weapons. It would be won in the minds of their enemies. The Compact needed to believe in their own superiority to function. Once that belief was destroyed, the rest would follow. The next 3 years passed in a blur of activity. Ships were built, crews were trained. Weapons were tested in secret ranges far from prying eyes. The human fleet grew from a handful of prototypes to a force of 400 warships, each one a miracle of hidden engineering. And through it all, the Compact suspected nothing. They continued to mock humanity in their broadcasts. They continued to collect their unfair taxes. They continued to believe that the primitive mammals posed no threat. Captain Hana ran combat drills daily. Her crew practiced every possible scenario until their responses became automatic. They learned to work together as a single unit, anticipating each other's actions without words. By the end of their training, the Wrath of Terra was not just a ship. It was a weapon forged from human determination and hardened by human suffering. On the day before the fleet was scheduled to move to its final staging positions, Hana gathered her senior officers for a private meeting. She looked at their faces, seeing the fear they tried to hide behind courage. "I will not lie to you," she said. "Many of us may not survive what is coming. But remember why we are here. Remember Proxima. Remember every insult, every death, every moment of shame we have endured. We fight not just for ourselves, but for every human who has ever looked at the stars and wondered if we truly belonged among them." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Tomorrow, we show them the answer. We belong here, and we will not be dismissed anymore." The officers saluted and returned to their duties. Outside the viewport, the hidden fleet waited in the darkness, ready to emerge and change the galaxy forever. Ambassador Yoon Suji had never been afraid of aliens. She had spent her entire career dealing with them, learning their languages, understanding their cultures, finding ways to negotiate impossible situations. But as she stood before the Galactic Compact Assembly, surrounded by representatives from 12 species who considered her less than an insect, she felt her heart beating faster than normal. This was the moment everything would change. The assembly chamber was enormous, built to impress and intimidate visitors. The ceiling rose so high that clouds formed near the top. 12 raised platforms surrounded the central speaking floor, each one occupied by the ruling council of a different species. The Valari platform was the highest, covered in gold and precious gems that sparkled under the artificial sunlight. The high speaker looked down at Suji with obvious boredom. His golden feathers were perfectly arranged, and his wings were folded in the position that signified polite disinterest. To him, this was just another routine meeting with the troublesome humans, another opportunity to remind them of their place. "Ambassador," he said, his musical voice echoing through the chamber, "you requested this audience. We have granted it, though we are very busy with important matters. Speak quickly." Suji stepped forward. Her voice was calm and clear, carrying to every corner of the massive room. "High Speaker, honored representatives of the Galactic Compact, I bring a message from the United Earth Council. This message contains 3 demands. If these demands are not met within 30 standard days, there will be consequences." A ripple of surprise passed through the assembly. Humans did not make demands. Humans asked politely and accepted whatever scraps they were given. This was something new. The Kreth representative leaned forward, his compound eyes glittering with interest. "Demands?" he clicked. "The mammals make demands?" "The first demand," Suji continued, ignoring the interruption, "is full recognition of humanity as an equal member of the Galactic Compact, with all rights and privileges that status provides." Laughter echoed through the chamber. The Valari delegates found this particularly amusing, their musical voices creating a chorus of mockery. "The second demand," Suji said, raising her voice above the noise, "is the immediate end to all trade restrictions imposed on human worlds, and full access to standard galactic commerce routes." More laughter. The Moravi pulsed with bright light, their equivalent of tears of amusement. "The third demand," Suji concluded, "is full reparations for the destruction of the Proxima colony. 100 trillion galactic credits, paid directly to the survivors and families of the victims." The laughter stopped. The chamber went silent. Even the high speaker's wings twitched in what might have been surprise. "Reparations?" he repeated. "For Proxima? That was a lawful action against illegal activity. We owe you nothing," 60,000 humans died, Suji replied. Men, women, and children. None of them were given a trial. None of them were allowed to defend themselves. You murdered them and called it justice. The High Speaker's feathers ruffled in anger. Watch your tone, mammal. You stand in our chamber only because we permit it. You exist only because we allow it, Suji smiled. It was not a friendly smile. You have 30 days, High Speaker. Meet our demands or face the consequences. This is not a request. This is not a negotiation. This is an ultimatum. She turned and walked out of the chamber without waiting to be dismissed. Behind her, she could hear the uproar beginning as the 12 species argued about this unprecedented display of human defiance. Let them argue, she thought. In 30 days, words would not matter anymore. The next 29 days were filled with activity that the compact sensors did not detect. Human ships moved through secret routes, using asteroids and gas giants to hide their heat signatures. Supply vessels carried ammunition to hidden staging areas. Communication officers established secure channels that enemy intelligence could not crack. Admiral Dohun spent those days reviewing battle plans with his commanders. Every detail was examined. Every contingency considered. Every possible enemy response planned for. They knew they would only get one chance at this. Failure was not an option. The Valari will respond first, Intelligence Officer Nari predicted during their final briefing. Their pride demands it. They will send a large fleet, probably the 17th, to crush us immediately. They want to make an example of us before the other species start asking questions. How large is the 17th? Captain Hana asked. 80 ships, all combat vessels. It is their most decorated fleet. Decorated for what? They have not fought a real battle in thousands of years. Nari nodded. Exactly. They have won many competitions and parades. They are very good at looking impressive. But they have never faced anyone who fought back. On day 29, compact sensors finally detected something unusual. Strange heat signatures appeared in 17 different systems simultaneously. At first, the analysts thought it was a glitch in their equipment. Then they looked closer and realized the truth. Ships, hundreds of ships, coming from places where no ships should exist. Panic spread through the compact's military command. Where had these vessels come from? How had humanity built them without detection? What weapons did they carry? Emergency messages flew between the 12 species. Some demanded immediate attack. Some urged caution and diplomacy. The High Speaker dismissed all concerns with a wave of his wing. They are bluffing, he declared. Those ships are probably empty shells, designed to frighten us. Humans do not have the technology or the resources to build a real fleet. Send the 17th to destroy them and end this foolishness. On day 30, the human fleet completed its final approach to the designated coordinates. 400 warships emerged from the shadows, their running lights blazing in the darkness of space. They had come from hidden shipyards in hollowed moons. They had traveled through routes that no one knew existed. And at their center floated something that made the compact's analysts go pale with fear. The UEN Colossus. The dreadnought was 3 kilometers long, the largest ship humanity had ever built. Its hull was covered in weapon batteries that the compact's databases could not identify. At its heart was a reactor powerful enough to light a small planet. And mounted along its spine was something that no one had ever seen before. A weapon so massive that it required the entire ship to support it. Admiral Dohun stood on the Colossus's bridge, watching the final ships move into position. Around him, thousands of officers and crew worked at their stations. Calm and focused, despite the weight of what they were about to do. Communications, he said quietly. Open a channel. All frequencies. Maximum power. Kim Yuna's fingers danced across her console. Channel open, Admiral. You are live to the entire galaxy. Dohun stepped forward. When he spoke, his voice was steady and cold. The voice of a man who had waited 300 years for this moment. To all species of the Galactic Compact, I am Admiral Park Dohun of the United Earth Navy. For 3 centuries, Humanity has accepted your contempt, your restrictions, and your cruelty. We have begged for equality and been denied. We have asked for justice and been laughed at. We have mourned our dead while you celebrated their murders. He paused, letting his words sink in across 1,000 worlds. No more. The era of human submission is over. We declare battle. Every ship that stands against us will be destroyed. Every world that opposes us will face consequences. We are not asking for respect anymore. We are taking it. His eyes hardened. You have called us primitive. You have called us weak. You have called us children. Allow us to educate you about what humans truly are. He raised his hand. All ships, prepare for combat. Today, we remind the galaxy why humanity has survived everything the universe has thrown at us. Today, we show them the fury of a patient species that has finally run out of patience. His hand fell. Today, we make them afraid. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched in shock as the human fleet moved forward. The impossible had happened. The mammals were fighting back, and the compact was not ready. The Valari 17th Fleet moved through space like a formation of golden birds. 80 warships, each one a masterpiece of alien engineering, their hulls decorated with intricate patterns that showed their long and glorious history. They had won 17 ceremonial battles and countless awards for excellence in formation flying. Their commanders wore medals that stretched from shoulder to waist. Admiral Koreth, the fleet's commander, stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Glory. His feathers were arranged in the pattern of absolute confidence. He had been chosen for this mission because he was the most decorated officer in the Valari Navy. Not because he had any real combat experience. He had none. No one did. The human ships are holding position, his sensor officer reported. They are not attempting to flee. The human ships are holding position. They are not attempting to flee. Of course not, Koreth replied with a dismissive click of his beak. They are frozen with fear. They know what is coming. They are probably praying to whatever primitive gods they worship. He gestured to his communications officer. Open a channel. I want them to hear our final warning before we destroy them. The channel crackled to life. Human vessels. This is Admiral Koreth of the Valari 17th Fleet. You have violated Galactic Compact law by assembling an unauthorized military force. Surrender immediately, and your crews will be allowed to live as prisoners. Resist, and you will be destroyed. You have 1 minute to respond. The response came almost instantly. It was not the response Koreth expected. Valari Fleet, this is Commander Im Wung of the United Earth Navy cruiser Silent Fang. We do not recognize compact authority. We do not accept your terms. If you want us, come and take us. The channel went silent. For a moment, no one on the Eternal Glory's bridge moved. They had never heard a human speak with such disrespect, such confidence, such utter lack of fear. Koreth's feathers bristled with outrage. All ships, attack formation, destroy them all, leave no survivors. The Valari fleet moved forward, spreading into their standard crescent formation. It was a beautiful sight. 80 ships moving in perfect synchronization, their golden hulls reflecting the light of distant stars. They had practiced this maneuver thousands of times. They could do it in their sleep. On the Silent Fang, Commander Wung watched them approach on his tactical display. His crew was silent, focused, every person knowing exactly what they needed to do. Beside him, his tactical officer Gong Mire studied the enemy formation with cold, analytical eyes. Standard crescent pattern, she reported. They are not using any evasive protocols. Their shields are at normal power. They are not even trying to hide their approach. They think this will be an execution. Wung replied. They have never met an enemy who fights back. Let us educate them. He raised his hand and activated the fleet communication channel. All ships, this is Commander Wung. Hold position until they reach optimal range. Wait for my signal. Do not fire until I give the order. Let them get close. Let them think they have won, then show them what humans can do. The Valari fleet closed the distance. 30,000 kilometers. 20,000. 10,000. At 5,000 kilometers, Admiral Korath gave the order to fire. 80 ships unleashed their plasma lances simultaneously. Beams of superheated energy streaked across space, converging on the human formation. The combined firepower was enough to melt a small moon. The Valari crews watched their displays, waiting for the satisfying sight of human ships exploding into fragments. The plasma lances struck the human ships, and nothing happened. Or rather, something happened, but it was not what anyone expected. The human hulls glowed briefly where the plasma struck them. The adaptive armor analyzed the energy signature, reconfigured itself, and absorbed the attack. When the glow faded, the ships were still there, undamaged. What? Admiral Korath stared at his display in disbelief. That is impossible. Fire again. Full power. What? The Valari fleet fired again. And again. And again. Each time, the plasma was absorbed by the strange human armor. Each time, the human ships emerged unharmed. Commander Woong smiled grimly. Tactical. Activate jump disruptors. Across the human formation, strange devices hummed to life. They sent out waves of energy that interfered with faster-than-light drives, making it impossible for any ship to escape into hyperspace. The Valari fleet was trapped. All ships, Woong ordered. Fire. The human fleet unleashed its kinetic lances. Tungsten rods accelerated to near-light speed, invisible to the naked eye, moving too fast for any sensor to track. They struck the Valari ships with devastating force. The first volley destroyed 12 ships instantly. The kinetic rounds punched through shields as if they did not exist. They penetrated armor, designed to resist plasma beams. They continued through the ships and out the other side, leaving massive holes behind them. Chaos erupted in the Valari formation. Ships exploded, debris scattered in all directions. Commanders screamed orders that made no sense. Crews panicked and abandoned their stations. Nothing in their training had prepared them for this. Nothing in their history had shown them how to handle an enemy that fought back. Retreat, Admiral Korath ordered, his confident feathers now flat with fear. All ships, retreat to hyperspace. We cannot, sir, his navigation officer reported, his voice shaking. Our drives are offline. Some kind of interference field. We are trapped. The human fleet moved forward, methodical and precise. Each ship fired with perfect accuracy, targeting enemy vessels one by one. The kinetic lances did their terrible work. Valari ships died by the dozens. Commander Woong watched the destruction on his display with no pleasure. He took no joy in killing. But he remembered Proxima. He remembered 60,000 humans who had died without a chance to fight back. And he knew that this violence was necessary for his people to be free. Enemy flagship identified, Mireille reported. The Eternal Glory. She is attempting to maneuver away from the engagement zone. Target her drives, Woong ordered. Disable but do not destroy. I want their admiral alive. A single kinetic round struck the Eternal Glory's engine section. The ship went dark, drifting powerless through the debris field that had once been the pride of the Valari Navy. 11 minutes had passed since the battle began. 63 Valari ships had been destroyed. The remaining 17 drifted helplessly. Their weapons exhausted. Their shields collapsed. Their crews waiting for death. It did not come. Valari vessels, Commander Woong broadcast. This battle is over. You are defeated. Surrender now and your lives will be spared. Medical ships will be dispatched to rescue survivors from damaged vessels. Resist, and you will be destroyed. One by one, the surviving Valari ships sent surrender signals. Their crews could not believe what had happened. The invincible 17th Fleet, destroyer of ceremonial enemies and winner of countless awards, had been utterly crushed in less than 15 minutes. The human fleet had lost 4 ships. 212 humans had died. Their names would be remembered forever as the first heroes of the war. But for every human who fell, 1,000 Valari had joined them. When the battle ended, Commander Woong transmitted a detailed report to Admiral Do Hun. Then he ordered his crew to begin rescue operations. Human ships moved through the debris field, searching for survivors, providing medical aid to the wounded, treating enemy prisoners with the dignity they had never shown to humans. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread like fire in dry grass. The unthinkable had happened. Humans had won. The primitive mammals from the backwater spiral arm had destroyed an elder fleet in minutes. On Valara Prime, the High Speaker watched the battle recordings in horrified silence. His feathers lay flat against his body, the position of absolute terror. For the first time in his long life, he understood a simple truth. Humans were not children playing at being adults. Humans were predators who had been hiding their claws, and now those claws were out. The Galactic Compact Assembly Chamber had never been so loud. Representatives from 12 species screamed at each other, their voices mixing into a wall of noise that made it impossible to understand anything. The careful protocols that had governed their meetings for thousands of years had collapsed in the face of panic. The Valari High Speaker stood at his podium, trying to restore order, but no one was listening to him anymore. His fleet had been destroyed. His authority had been shattered along with it. For the first time in Valari history, their species faced a military defeat, and they had no idea how to respond. The Kreeth delegation demanded immediate total war. Their insectoid bodies vibrated with aggression as they clicked out their arguments. Send every ship. Destroy every human world. Burn their colonies the way they burned Proxima. Show no mercy. Take no prisoners. Exterminate the mammals before they could spread. The crystalline Moravi, oldest of the elder races, pulsed with calming light as they counseled peace. War was wasteful. War was dangerous. The humans had proven they could fight. Better to negotiate now while there was still something to negotiate with. Better to give them what they wanted than lose more ships trying to deny it. The arguments continued for hours. No agreement was reached. The alliance that had ruled the galaxy for 6,000 years was cracking, and everyone could see it. While the Compact argued, Fleet Commander An Jisoo launched a different kind of attack. He stood in the communications center of the UEN Victory, surrounded by officers who had spent years preparing for this moment. On the screens before them, they could see transmission data from across Compact space. Begin broadcast, Jisoo ordered. Human messages started appearing on every public channel in the galaxy. They were not threats. They were not declarations of war. They were something far more dangerous. They were the truth. The broadcasts showed the history of human-compact relations from the human perspective. They showed the unfair trade agreements that kept human worlds in poverty. They showed the restrictions that prevented human technology from advancing. They showed the blockades that strangled human commerce. And they showed Proxima. The images were horrifying. A beautiful blue-green world, covered in clouds, orbited by 3 moons. Then, the Valari fleet arrived. Then the bombardment began. Then the clouds turned to fire and the oceans boiled away, and 60,000 humans died screaming while the galaxy watched and did nothing. We never wanted war, the human narrator explained, speaking in a dozen alien languages. We asked for equality, and were refused. We asked for justice, and were ignored. We asked only to live in peace, and were answered with fire. What choice did we have? What choice did they leave us? The broadcasts spread through compact civilian networks faster than sensors could block them. Billions of alien beings saw what their governments had done in their name. Many were shocked. Some were ashamed. A few began to ask uncomfortable questions. Why had they treated the humans so badly? What had the mammals ever done to deserve such cruelty? And if the Compact could do this to humans, who would be next? The Quareth were the first to break. They were a massive species, resembling stone pillars with multiple arms, who had long resented Valari dominance. Their representative stood up in the middle of the assembly debate and made a stunning announcement. Quareth withdraws from military participation, he declared, his voice like grinding rocks. We will not spend our ships and our soldiers fighting humans. They have done nothing to us. This is a Valari problem. Let the Valari solve it. The chamber erupted again. The High Speaker's feathers rose in outrage. He demanded that Quorath honor their alliance obligations. The Quorath representative simply turned and walked out, followed by his entire delegation. The amphibious Selkor went next. They remembered their own subjugation centuries ago, when the Compact had forced them to accept membership at the point of a weapon. The human struggle reminded them of their ancestors' suffering. They could not fight against beings who only wanted freedom. Selkor will remain neutral, their representative announced. We wish the humans well in their quest for dignity. It is a quest we understand. Within 3 days, 5 of the 12 compact species had withdrawn from the war. The alliance was shattering, and there was nothing the Valari could do to stop it. Meanwhile, Captain Song Hana led her battle group toward Nexus Station, the Compact's primary supply depot. It was a massive structure, floating in the void between star systems, containing enough fuel and ammunition to supply 1,000 ships for a year. Without it, the Compact's military operations would grind to a halt. The station was defended by 40 warships, a mix of Valari and Kreth vessels. Their commanders had studied the battle recordings from the 17th Fleet. They had tried to develop new tactics. They believed they were ready. They were wrong. Hana's ships moved in perfect coordination, the result of years of secret training. They used asteroids for cover, approaching the station from multiple angles simultaneously. When the defenders tried to concentrate their fire, the humans were already somewhere else. When they spread out to cover all approaches, they were too weak to stop anything. The battle lasted 4 hours. Hana lost 11 ships, more than twice the losses from the first engagement. But when it was over, Nexus Station belonged to humanity. The 40 defending ships were destroyed or captured. The station's crew, mostly civilian workers from neutral species, surrendered peacefully. Sergeant O'Kyun led the boarding teams that secured the station. He was a small man with quick hands and quicker reflexes, the kind of soldier who thrived in close-quarters combat. His Marines moved through the station's corridors with silent efficiency, accepting surrenders, securing critical systems, ensuring that nothing was sabotaged. "Captain," he reported when the operation was complete, "the station is ours. Fuel reserves are intact. Ammunition stockpiles are secure. We have also captured extensive intelligence files that the defenders did not have time to destroy." Hana smiled. Those intelligence files would prove invaluable. They contained detailed information about compact fleet movements, defensive positions, and internal communications. Humanity now knew exactly what their enemies were planning. Admiral Dohun received the news with grim satisfaction. The war was going better than anyone had hoped, but he knew the hardest battles were still ahead. The Valari would not surrender easily. They had too much pride, too much anger, too much fear of what would happen if they lost. He activated a secure channel to Intelligence Officer Nari. "What is the current situation in the assembly?" Nari's face appeared on his screen. She looked tired but pleased. "The Alliance is fragmenting faster than we projected. 7 species are now refusing to participate in military operations. The Valari and Kreth are pushing for extreme measures, but they cannot act without broader support." "What kind of extreme measures?" "There is talk of using planet-killer weapons, destroying human colony worlds the way they destroyed Proxima. But the neutral species are threatening to withdraw completely if that happens. The Compact cannot survive without their economic contributions." Dohun nodded slowly. This was exactly what they had hoped for. The Compact was a fragile thing, held together by mutual benefit and shared arrogance. Once those bonds were stressed, the whole structure began to fall apart. "Continue the information campaign," he ordered. "Make sure every being in the galaxy understands what the Valari did to Proxima. Make sure they understand that we are fighting for our survival, not for conquest. We want allies, not subjects." "Understood, Admiral. There is one more thing you should know." "Yes?" Nari hesitated. "We have received unofficial communications from several neutral species. They are expressing support for our cause. Some have offered to provide intelligence. Others have offered to interfere with compact military operations. They cannot act openly, but they want to help." Dohun allowed himself a small smile. 3 centuries of suffering had taught humanity patience. 3 centuries of humiliation had taught them the value of allies. Now that patience was paying off, accept their help, he said, quietly, carefully, and remind them that humanity remembers its friends. The war continued. Human fleets struck at compact supply lines, destroying convoys, capturing stations, crippling the enemy's ability to move and fight. The psychological campaign intensified, undermining compact unity with every broadcast, and slowly, painfully, the tide began to turn. The mammals were winning, and the galaxy was watching in disbelief. Valara Prime hung in space like a blue jewel against black velvet. It was the most beautiful planet in the galaxy, covered in crystalline oceans and forests of golden trees. For 6,000 years, it had been the center of galactic civilization, the seat of compact power, the symbol of Valari supremacy. No enemy fleet had ever reached its orbit, until now. Admiral Park Do-hun stood on the bridge of the UEN Colossus, watching the planet grow larger on his display. Around him, 380 human warships formed a sphere of steel and fire. Their weapons charged, their crews ready. They had fought through 4 defensive lines to get here. They had lost 60 ships and thousands of good soldiers. But they had arrived, and nothing could stop them now. The Valari had gathered their final defense force in orbit around their homeworld. 200 warships, every vessel they could still command, crewed by officers who knew this was their last chance. If they lost here, their species would fall, their empire would end. Their pride would be ashes. The new High Speaker, who had taken power after his predecessor fled in disgrace, appeared on Do-hun's communication screen. His feathers were arranged in the pattern of desperate authority, but his eyes betrayed his fear. "Human Admiral," he said, his musical voice strained, "this does not need to end in more death. We can negotiate. We can discuss terms. What happened before was regrettable, but we can move forward together." Do-hun studied the alien's face. He saw fear there, yes, but also calculation. The speaker was stalling, hoping reinforcements would arrive, hoping for a miracle that would not come. "You had 300 years to negotiate," Do-hun replied. "You chose to laugh at us instead. You had the chance to treat us as equals. You chose to burn Proxima instead. Now you want to talk because your fleets are broken and your allies have abandoned you. Do you think we are stupid?" The speaker's feathers ruffled. "If you attack our homeworld, you will unite the entire galaxy against you. Every species will see you as monsters, as conquerors, as a threat to all civilized beings. You will never know peace again. Is that what you told yourselves when you burned Proxima? Did you think there would be no consequences?" Do-hun leaned forward, his eyes cold and hard. "We are not here to destroy your world, High Speaker. We are not monsters, despite what you believe. We are here to prove a point. We are here to show you, and everyone else in the galaxy, that humanity cannot be dismissed, cannot be ignored, cannot be murdered without consequence." He straightened. "You will fight us because your pride demands it. And you will lose because your pride has made you weak. Your fleets have not fought a real war in 4,000 years. Your commanders have never faced an enemy who shoots back. Your soldiers have never known fear." His voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried across the void of space. "Let us teach you fear." The Battle of Valara Prime began with a coordinated strike that the Valari had never seen before. Human ships did not advance in a single formation. They split into dozens of smaller groups, each one moving independently, each one attacking from a different angle. The Valari tried to respond, but their traditional tactics were useless. They formed their elegant crescent formation, and the humans simply flowed around it. They concentrated their fire on one section, and human ships appeared behind them. They retreated to regroup, and found themselves surrounded. Captain Songhana led the attack on the enemy flagship, a massive vessel called the Wings of Dawn. It was the largest ship in the Valari fleet, crewed by their most decorated officers, carrying their most advanced weapons. It should have been invincible. It lasted 40 minutes. The Wrath of Terra's kinetic lances punched through its shields with the first volley. The second volley disabled its weapons. The third struck its engines, leaving it drifting and helpless. Hana ordered her ship to hold position, waiting for the enemy crew to surrender. They did not. The Wings of Dawn opened fire with emergency backup systems, a futile gesture of defiance that did no damage to the wrath of Terra's adaptive armor. Hana could have destroyed them instantly. Instead, she waited. "They are signaling," her communications officer reported. "The enemy flagship is requesting a direct channel." Hana nodded. The face that appeared on her screen was the Valari fleet commander. An old male whose feathers were stained with blood from a wound on his head. He looked broken, defeated, but there was still pride in his eyes. "Human captain," he said, "you have won this battle. I offer my surrender, and the surrender of my crew. I ask only that you treat our wounded with mercy." "Your wounded will receive the same care as our own," Hana replied. "Your prisoners will be treated with dignity. That is the human way." The commander's feathers shifted in surprise. He had expected cruelty. He had expected vengeance. He had not expected mercy. "Why?" he asked. "After what we did to your people, why would you show us kindness?" Hana considered the question. She thought about her brother, who had died on Proxima. She thought about all the humans who had suffered under Valari arrogance. She thought about the rage that burned in her heart, demanding revenge, and she pushed it aside. "Because we are better than you," she said simply. "Because treating prisoners with cruelty would make us what you accused us of being. Because mercy is strength, not weakness. Because we did not start this war to become monsters. We started it to prove that we are not." The battle raged for 6 hours. The Valari fought with desperate courage, knowing they were doomed, hoping only to take as many humans with them as they could. But their courage was not enough. Their technology was not enough. Their pride was not enough. When the Valari flagship exploded, taking the high speaker with it, the remaining vessels finally surrendered. 140 ships destroyed. 60 captured. The greatest military force the galaxy had ever known, broken in a single day. And then humanity did the impossible. The human fleet did not advance on Valara Prime. They did not bombard cities. They did not demand unconditional surrender. Instead, Admiral Dohun broadcast a message that stunned everyone who heard it. "People of Valara Prime, this is Admiral Park Dohun of the United Earth Navy. Your fleet is defeated. Your homeworld is within range of our weapons. We could destroy your cities. We could burn your forests. We could do to you what you did to Proxima." He paused, letting the fear sink in. "But we will not. We are not here for revenge. We are not here for conquest. We are here because you gave us no choice. You murdered our people and called it justice. You insulted us and called it wisdom. You denied us our dignity and called it natural law." His voice softened. "We wanted only to be treated as equals. We asked for nothing more. And you refused. So we took what we needed. But we will not become what you feared. We will not prove your prejudice right by acting like monsters." Medical ships began deploying from the human fleet. They moved toward damaged Valari vessels, rescuing survivors, treating the wounded. Supply vessels followed, carrying humanitarian aid for the civilian populations that had been cut off during the war. "We are humans," Dohun concluded. "We fight when we must. We show mercy when we can. We remember our friends. And we forgive our enemies when they earn forgiveness. Today, you have learned what we can do when we are angry. Tomorrow, you will learn what we can do when we are at peace." The transmission ended. On Valara Prime, billions of Valari watched their enemies help their wounded. They watched human doctors treat Valari patients. They watched mercy instead of massacre. And slowly, painfully, they began to understand that they had been wrong about the mammals all along. The signing ceremony took place in the Great Hall where Ambassador Yoon Suji had delivered humanity's ultimatum just months before. The same golden light filtered down from the impossibly high ceiling. The same 12 platforms surrounded the central floor, but everything else had changed. The Valari platform was lower now, level with the others. The arrogant decorations had been removed. The high speaker's podium stood empty, waiting for someone to fill a position that no longer carried absolute authority. The other platforms showed similar changes. The old hierarchy was dead, replaced by something new. President Lee Tae-ho walked to the center of the floor, his footsteps echoing in the vast space. He was followed by representatives from Earth's 14 colonies, by Admiral Park Do-hun in his formal uniform, by Captain Song Hana, and the other heroes of the war. They formed a line behind him, standing tall and proud. On the platforms around them, the surviving compact species watched in silence. Many had fought against humanity. Many had refused to fight at all. Some had secretly helped the human cause. Now they waited to see what their new reality would look like. The new Valari speaker, a young female named Sira, who had advocated for peace before the war, rose to address the assembly. Her feathers were arranged in the pattern of genuine humility, something no Valari had shown in centuries. "We are gathered here to end a war," she said. "A war that should never have happened. A war caused by our arrogance, our cruelty, and our blindness. For 300 years, we treated humanity as lesser beings. We denied them rights. We restricted their growth. We burned their colony and called it justice." Her voice trembled slightly, but she continued. "We were wrong. We were fools. And we paid for our foolishness with the lives of our warriors and the destruction of our fleet. The humans could have burned our worlds in return. They could have done to us exactly what we did to Proxima. Instead, they showed us mercy. They proved that they were better than we ever believed possible." She turned to face the human delegation. "On behalf of the Valari people, I offer our deepest apologies. We cannot undo what was done. We cannot bring back the dead. But we can promise to do better. We can promise to treat humanity as the equals they have always been. And we can promise that the galaxy we build together will be based on respect, not on fear." The treaty was signed by representatives of all 13 species. Humanity was recognized as a full member of the reformed Galactic Compact. With all the rights and privileges that status provided, trade restrictions were lifted. Reparations were paid to the survivors and families of the Proxima massacre. Human colonies were granted protected status that could never be revoked. But the treaty was only the beginning. Over the following months, the galaxy transformed in ways no one had expected. Other species who had been marginalized under the old compact began to demand their own rights. The Cell Corps pushed for reforms in how new species were admitted to galactic civilization. The Koreth called for an end to the economic systems that had kept smaller species in debt to larger ones. Change spread like ripples in a pond, touching every corner of known space. Admiral Park Do-hun returned to Earth after the signing ceremony. He was offered every honor his people could give. They wanted him to lead their government. They wanted him to represent humanity to the galaxy. They wanted him to be the symbol of their triumph. He refused everything. "I built weapons," he told President Tae-ho in their final meeting. "I led fleets into battle. I did what needed to be done because no one else could do it. But that time is over. Peacetime needs different builders. It needs diplomats, not warriors. Teachers, not soldiers. People who can create instead of destroy." He looked out the window at the blue sky of Earth, the planet he had fought to protect. "I am tired, old friend. I have carried this weight for too long. Let the young people shape the future. They will do better than we ever could." He retired to a small apartment in Seoul, in the same building where he had grown up. He lived quietly, reading books, watching the stars, occasionally advising young officers who sought his wisdom. He never gave interviews. He never wrote memoirs. He simply faded into the peaceful life he had earned. Captain Song Hana took command of the combined fleet, a new peacekeeping force that included ships and crews from all 13 compact species. Her first officer was a Valari named Tal, one of the survivors of the Battle of Valara Prime. He had watched Hana spare his ship when she could have destroyed it. He had seen human doctors save his wounded crewmates. He had decided that reconciliation was more valuable than revenge. Their partnership was difficult at first. The wounds of war do not heal quickly. But slowly, carefully, they built something real. A friendship based on mutual respect. A working relationship that showed the entire galaxy what was possible when former enemies chose to trust each other. Intelligence Officer Bakenari founded the Galactic Exchange, an organization dedicated to cultural understanding between species. Her agents, who had once gathered secrets for war, now worked to spread knowledge and build bridges. They organized exchanges where young beings from different worlds could live and learn together. They created translation programs that made communication easier. They helped species understand each other's histories, fears, and dreams. Commander Im Wung, hero of the first battle, became the head of the United Earth Naval Academy. He trained the next generation of officers, teaching them not just how to fight, but when to fight, and why. His students learned that victory without honor was worthless, that mercy was stronger than cruelty, that the purpose of strength was to protect the weak, not to dominate them. On Earth and the colony worlds, monuments rose to honor the fallen. The names of every human who died in the war were carved into black stone walls, so that no one would ever forget the price of freedom. Schools taught the history of the conflict, not as a tale of military triumph, but as a lesson in courage, patience, and the refusal to accept injustice. Children who had been born during the war grew up in a different galaxy than their parents had known. They traveled to alien worlds without fear. They made friends with beings their grandparents would have considered enemies. They took humanity's place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as partners. 20 years after the war ended, old Admiral Dohun sat on his balcony in Seoul, watching the sun set over the mountains. His hair was completely white now, and his body was fragile, but his eyes were still sharp. On the table beside him sat a small device that showed news from across the galaxy. A human doctor had won the Compact's highest award for medicine, after developing a treatment that saved millions of alien lives. A human artist's sculpture stood in the central plaza of Velara Prime, a gift celebrating peace. A human ship had just discovered a new habitable world at the edge of known space, and representatives from all 13 species were planning the joint colony that would be built there. The galaxy was changing, slowly, painfully, with many setbacks and disappointments, but changing nonetheless. The fear and hatred that had defined relations between species for thousands of years was fading, replaced by something new, something better. A knock came at his door. He opened it to find a young woman, perhaps 20 years old, wearing the uniform of the United Earth Navy. She was nervous, twisting her hands together, clearly awed to be meeting the legendary admiral. "Sir," she said, "I am starting at the academy next month. I wanted to meet you and thank you. My grandmother was on Proxima. She was one of the survivors. She always said that you gave her back her dignity. That you gave all of us our dignity." Dohun smiled. It was a gentle smile, free of the hardness that had marked his face during the war years. "I did what anyone would have done," he said. "I saw injustice, and I fought against it. That is not special. That is simply being human." He put his hand on her shoulder. "Now it is your turn. The galaxy is watching to see what humanity will become. Show them that we deserve our place among the stars. Show them that the peace we won is worth keeping. Show them that we learned from our suffering instead of passing it on to others." The young woman stood straighter, her nervousness replaced by determination. "I will, sir. I promise." After she left, Dohun returned to his balcony. The stars were coming out, bright points of light against the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, human and alien crews patrolled together. Children of different worlds laughed and played together. The future was being born, one small moment at a time. He closed his eyes and remembered all that humanity had endured. The centuries of insults, the burning of Proxima, the long years of secret preparation, the battles fought and won, the mercy shown when vengeance would have been easier. It had been worth it. Every sacrifice, every death, every moment of pain and doubt and fear. It had all been worth it. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not through conquest or domination, but through courage and compassion. They had proven that even the smallest voice could shake the galaxy if it refused to be silenced. And the stars, no longer cold and distant, shone down like old friends welcoming home a traveler who had been gone too long. The story of humanity's struggle was over. The story of humanity's future was just beginning.